We're live, I think. No, we're not live yet. Now we're live? Now we're live. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're hailing from. I'm your host, Keith Emanuel, here to bring you knowledge, information, and hopefully at the least a bit of entertainment. But I think heavily on the information side, this part, considering we just cracked a CIA document. Sue Ann Williams, you're always the first in the room. Impeccable. Impeccable timing. Alchemy, what's cracking? What's cracking? What's cracking? I'll get right into it. And I'll do some screen sharing. So for those of you guys that are new, thank you guys for subscribing, or thank you for at least considering to do so if you have not already. Everyone smash that like button for me so we can beat that YouTube algorithm and get this video to as many people as possible. Thank you. And we will continue. So Kirlian photography is essentially you take photographs of things and they sort of emit a quote unquote aura. That aura can be used to seemingly, when there's more tests that can be done, diagnose diseases. In this document here, it showed how botanists gave two leaves of the same plant and they both came up having different fields, and they were like, what the hell, it's the same plant. What happened was the plant leaf with the smaller field ended up becoming diseased. So what was happening is the photograph was able to take a picture and diagnose what the eye couldn't see. I'll send a link in the room right now to the CIA document. It's right here. So for those of you that want to follow along or do your own research, which I always highly suggest, there's the link. It's in the chat box of the live right now. That being said, if you guys don't know what Kirlian photography is, you get the person to stand on a piece of rubber so that they're not conducting electricity from the planet, essentially. I don't really understand the process. It didn't get too far into that. Let me see if I can pull it up and read it for you guys. Actually, no, we're going to skip that. You can look up how it works on your own. Interestingly enough, when it comes to Kirlian photography and reading the aura and whatnot, is it a hoax? Is it real? It gets downplayed, obviously, in mainstream science. No one's going to be doing serious research with this. No one's going to be talking about this seriously without having their reputation discredited. And on top, it's 11:11. And on top of that, when I typed it into Google, check this out. We'll do some screen share now. Screen share. Is Kirlian photography true? Paranormal, see, right away, right, according to Google and Wikipedia, paranormal claims, so notice the verbiage, of Kirlian photography have not been observed, interestingly. So pay attention to the words. Has not been observed or replicated in experiment by the scientific community. The physiologist Gordon Stein has written that Kirlian photography is a hoax that has nothing to do with health, vitality, or mood of a subject photographed, because in the CIA document, it talked about how the mood can be manipulated. Not manipulated, how the mood manipulates the electromagnetic field, the EM field. And so I was like, all right, who's this goon Gordon Stein, right? So I typed in Gordon Stein, looked him up. Gordon Stein, April 30th, 41, August 27th, 96, was an American author, physiologist, and activist for atheism and religious skepticism. So if he was an activist for atheism and religious skepticism, we know automatically that his conclusions are going to be biased. And we all know how the world works. If you look for something, you're going to find it. So if he viewed the world through a lens that says everything is bullshit unless it can be proved by the scientific committee, then he's going to come to the conclusion of that 9 times out of 10. Unfortunately for this man, or fortunately for this man, he died in 96. And if you see here, approved for release in 2000, 2008-7, which means He never got to see the unclassified CIA documents where the CIA gentleman um, wrote about an engineer, a Raphaelian from Georgia. Yada, 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 yada. So the mechanic's Kirlian. I was reading on a magician walks into a laboratory, and I thought, oh, that's cool. I thought he like magically walked through the walls, and I started reading it and noticed the dude's name was Kirlian. And I thought, this can't possibly be the same Kirlian who does the Kirlian photography. Lo and behold, it is. 1, 2, 3, 4 pages down. So check this out. This is when the juicy stuff starts happening. I'll read to you from the text. Actually, let me check the chat room and make sure that everything's going good. What up, Yesenia? Glad you enjoyed the live. Who else? Getting light-ended. What up? Nice. Nice to see everybody. Welcome aboard. So the Kirlians released 14 patents on this machine. Him and his wife were just putting in hella work. 3 years after, a man knocks on the door. His name is A. Krvoritov. Claims that he is a healer. So they do all sorts of tests on him. What they find out, we'll read further. What they find out is, okay, we'll read the mechanisms. The mechanism by which the healing procedure of the magician operates appears to us to be the following. The body of any person situated in the Earth's electrostatic field is charged negatively. You and I have negatively charged fields. Since the skin and fingers of the palm of the magician, Kororatov, or whatever his name is, were covered with a mutual dielectric glove. So the page before this basically said, this man's hands had no charge to them. They were a neutral charge. That's what the dielectric means. So a dielectric glove is like a glove you would wear so that you don't get electrocuted when working with electricity. They don't, like rubber would be dielectric, for example. So this magician's hands were sort of dielectric. They didn't really have a charge. It was neutral. So since the skin of the fingers and the palm of the magician was, as it were, covered with a mutual dielectric glove, a potential of any sign may be induced on it. So you could put any charge on his hand because his hand had no charge on it. During the procedure, while healing hands were placed on the head or body of the patient, the electrical charges of the patient's body excite. They polarize. Positive charges that are equal in magnitude but opposite in sign. Interesting, the law of rhythm right there. Equal in magnitude but opposite. Law of compensation, if you read the Kabbalion. An electric field is formed between the skin on Krvoritov's hands and the skin of the patient, right? Because the basically Krvoritov, his hands matched the opposite of the patient's. And because you match the opposite, you completed the circuit. The patient is negative, his hand becomes positive. You have a negative and a positive, and then you have a flow of electrons between the negative and the positive, which creates an electrical circuit. So he put his hands on people and just go because he would complete their circuit. An electric field is formed between the skin of his hands and the patient. This field has an intensity which increases as the spacing decreases. So the closer he gets, the stronger it gets. The electrons and ions situated in the air gap tend to move toward the photoelectrodes. The positive ones move toward the skin of the patient, right? Because the patient is negative, therefore the magician becomes positive. So the flow means the positive flows to negative, negative flows towards positive. So the positive ones move toward the skin of the patient. Kirlian, because he was the patient, and the Kirlian photographer was the one who was the patient at this time, while the negative ones move towards the magician. So the ion flux blows past and at the same time heats up the sick organs and stimulates its recovery. In a word, the same thing occurs as in the ionic shard. I don't know what the hell that is. All right, so that's basically it. That was just what I wanted to read you guys was the mechanism. And also to show you how misleading Google can be, because the first thing someone sees, especially if it pops up on Google, they've got the word paranormal in here, paranormal claims, so automatically it sets it up as being some sort of woo-woo shit. And then it talks about the physiologist Gordon Stein wrote that it's a hoax, but doesn't mention that the dude died 4 years before the CIA released their documents on it. They should probably update that. Or not, you know, I mean, who's updating all these small things? It's sort of up to us to do the digging. And, Kirlian photography, the myth and the science behind it. Um, Interesting. So I'm reading another article that I didn't see before opening this. Huh. Um, Even this one's already starting off to be weird. I mean, it's science proves that things put off electromagnetic radiation, the heart, the brain, for example. That is life force. The heart is generating the aura around the body. That's a scientific fact. That means that life is producing a force field around the body, verbatim. That means such thing as life force exists. So this person's basically strong, again, the word supernatural, strong supernatural convictions of Kirlian and his wife influenced the creation of the myth behind the technique. You know what I mean? It's fucked up. It's all framing. I don't know if you guys ever were into debating or into listening to politics debate, or people argue. Even people, regular people, when they argue, they'll always frame the conversation. And when they frame a conversation, they literally put it in a box. That's what they call it, framing. You put it in a frame that says this is what we're talking about. And what they've done here is they've framed the conversation as supernatural. Supernatural is basically saying it's bullshit. You know what I mean? So they're framing the conversation off the get go as bullshit. Um, uh, C caught the New Age movement. Well, fair enough, it did catch the New Age movement. The combination between significant scientific discovery and metaphysical concepts. Um, Ants crawling on me. It has since then observed that inanimate objects produce the same response. Ooh, that's interesting. So basically, they say that inanimate objects produce the same response. Well, that still falls in line with. Stop screen share. Saying disproving that this thing films life force by saying it shows a field around objects that are inanimate is not necessarily disproving his theory, because all things come from the same thing. Therefore, all things are going to have that original thing inside of it. A thing cannot rise higher than its source. In other words, to say that human bodies are alive and living, yet we're made up of metallic elements. So in other words, how can something be produced by nothing? We You cannot say that there's life in the human body, but there's not life inside of iron when the human body is made of ding 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 iron. You cannot say that the human life all of a sudden is alive, but then say the potassium inside human cells is not alive. All these non-living things creating living, like, it doesn't make any sense. So if that's his only, that's a bummer. Anywho, I wish that these websites that try to disprove this stuff would consider the CIA documents, because those CIA documents of Kirlian photography were released in the year 2000. It's been 20 years. Oh, man. Final thoughts. Kirlian photography might be fun to produce and look at, but it is by no means a supernatural event. It does not capture auras, and it doesn't have anything to do with the metaphysical. It is merely a natural reaction of photographic film to the corona effect of high voltage electrical energy, which makes it a simple light trick and nothing more. Um, Bummer. Hmm. Well, I just thought I would share that with you guys. It caught my curiosity. The bummer though is that there were blanks and shit on the CIA documents. There weren't many. I don't want to really go through and look for them. It'll take a minute to sort of dial everything in. But the plate that the people were laid on was not listed in the CIA document. It was blanked out. There's actually a couple things blanked out in that paragraph that talked about how it was built, and it's a bummer. Was a bummer. Aaron Steenberg, what's cracking? Serpent Ascendancy, Jenny Pete, Shemeka Robinson. How's it going, everybody? Nice to see you. So, what do you guys think? You think the Kirlian photography is BS? You think that it's just a supernatural, mythical mind getting carried away? It mentions tests that prove him wrong in that website. Or well, they don't prove him wrong, but they and the verbiage that they use on the article said. Where is it at? There's a general consensus. So they said there was a general consensus from the scientific community that there was nothing metaphysical going on, that it wasn't measuring auras, etc. But it doesn't mention the tests that do prove it, unfortunately. It didn't mention the tests that the CIA document talked about where the botanists measured two leaves of the same plant. One had a stronger force field than the other, and the weaker field, though they looked the same, the weaker of the two leaves actually had pests and diseases on the leaf that caused it to die after the picture had been taken. So it was able, in other words, to see something before. It's just, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir when I say this, but science is a very rigid field, especially the way we practice science today is like, everything is magic until science proves it. You know what I mean? Which is great for the psyche if science allows itself to be open, and suspends their beliefs on a situation before practicing something so that they can, come to objective viewpoints on things. But what can you do? What I guess that's why we gotta dig through CIA dumps to get information, because otherwise everything is just shite. Good to see you. That mustache is a bit thick. I know. I almost shaved everything off before the video. I'll probably shave it after the video. What's the purpose of this kind of photography? I guess it depends. The purpose of the photography is, I don't know. I mean, if you're talking about measuring the electromagnetic field that comes off of a person, I guess what it's used for is endless. If the EM field that a body releases contains information, and that's what electromagnetic fields do, they contain information, then that information can be transposed, and you could deduce all kinds of shit from that information. you could transpose the information to color. You could transpose the information to sound. You could transpose the information to physical reality. Like, forgot what the name is, but you know how they pass frequencies through a metal disc and they put sand on top of it, and the frequency, which is just information, as it passes through the disc, creates a shape in the sand, so you can use that information to deduce form, sound, light, um, which I guess could translate to disease or to health. Or one of the things in here, when the magician, we'll call him Korotov, whatever his name was, he put his hand in the plate and it did all kinds of colors. And he looked at his hand and he had an emotional reaction to not being able to see anything on his hand, and he put his hand back in and the shape had changed. And what Kirlian was saying is that based on people's emotions, the electrical charge from their fingers would change. And that fucking, I'm not a scientist, right? I'm not going to sit here and say I know more than scientists do, even the ones who don't believe in metaphysical things. But all I mean to say is our bodies put out electricity. They put out electromagnetic fields. It's not metaphysics, it's fucking science. Even mainstream science considers that. Now you talk about chemicals, the electrochemical relationship in the body, hormones, pheromones, serotonin, dopamine, dimethyltryptamine, um, adrenaline, all these things change the function of the body. They change the electrical output of the body because they change how fast the heart beats. They change how heavy the heart beats. They change how fast the blood flows throughout the body. They control the diameter of the blood vessels in the body. Like your internal physiology is changing through chemicals and electricity, with thoughts. And also, again, that thoughts change the chemistry of your body is not metaphysics, it's also science. Stress hormones raise blood pressure because it puts you in the fight or flight. If you were in nature, you would need your heart rate to go up because you would have to run or fight, right? So you need to get more oxygen to the body, to the muscles, so that you can survive. That's what stress does. That's why there's a connection between your emotions and your physical makeup, so that you can survive your environment. So when you talk about, he says that Kirlian photography doesn't do anything, can't measure the emotions. It doesn't measure shit like that. That's all woo-woo. What is so woo-woo about your emotions affecting the electrical output of your body, when we know for a fact that your emotions will release hormones into your body, and your hormones will change the mechanics of your body, i.e. raising your blood pressure, lowering your blood pressure, which in turn affects the electrical output of your heart, which is where your electromagnetic field is generated in the first place. It's just fucking crazy how the connection is so out there. Like, how dare you insist that there's a camera that measures the electrical output, and you, how dare you claim that camera can sense the change of a mood in a person? Like, what kind of wishy-washy woo-woo shit? Like, how dare you? The audacity to make a claim like that. Meanwhile, they're like, oh yeah, the heart produces an electromagnetic field. It's generated from the blood moving, and there's iron in the blood, and yada yada yada, and we can measure this. And like, the disconnect between science and progress is fucking astounding. Like I said, I'm not a scientist. I don't want to say I'm smarter than the dudes who are closed-minded, because they're probably light years ahead of me. But basic logic, which apparently a lot of people don't have these days, or I should say, common sense, it's not hard to deduce something like what I'm doing. You know what I mean? As long as you read books and and are able to put things together while suspending your previous beliefs, it's not hard. You know, I'm not saying that Kirlian photography measures what the Sanskrit called the aura, and you can diagnose and treat any disease ever with a Kirlian camera. That's not what I'm claiming. All I'm claiming is that the connection between what it says it does and what's actually going on is not a fucking stretch. And that there's CIA documents saying this that have been released, right, 40, 50 years after the tests went down, as also lends further credence to the sort of line of thought that I'm going down. Um, and that it's not a crime to at least consider the possibilities. I don't know if you guys have been following my channel for a while, but when I say things like, I would like to have my own institute of scientific research that funds wild scientific experiments with controlled studies, with state-of-the-art equipment. This is why I want it, so I can go back to the lab and get some actual objective results. Like this dude was the scientist who said it was all a joke that Google quoted was an advocate for atheism and anti-religion. Like, of course he's gonna take 2 looks at Kirlian photography and be like, it's full of shit. Next. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate. Like it's unfortunate. Really, it's so funny how you've changed over the year. I mean, this beard's not that old. I don't know if you guys. I trim the beard at least once a month. You guys just can't tell. Piano concert? I don't know. We could have a piano concert later if you want. You would be able to read people's minds too. You could also influence people's EM field if it's quantified. Well, yeah, I guess absolutely. If a person's electromagnetic field can transfer information to its surrounding area, then 100% the surrounding area, or I should say 99%, the outside area should be able to influence the field. And that's also something that science, I wrote about that in my book. Science is catching up to the idea that people can share information through their electromagnetic fields. And even if they're not able to pick it up consciously, that their body is able to pick it up. So for sure. I don't know if you can read people's, well, you can read people's minds in that it'll change, but that's what I mean. You'll have to be able to decipher what the information is saying, and there's just not enough tests. There's not enough rigorous controlled tests on, here's 1,000 pictures of people who are angry. This is their hand. This is the left hand of 1,000 people who are angry under the Kirlian photograph. This is 1,000 pictures of sadness, 1,000 pictures of anxiety, 1,000 pictures of hopefulness, love, joy, bliss. But we just don't have that information. We don't have that data because people like fucking whoever that Gordon dude was just shoot it down, and anyone else in the scientific community who wants to study it just gets shunned. Or imagine scientists don't have money, so they have to get grants. And pharmaceutical companies are the #1 supplier of grants for scientists. And do you really think a pharmaceutical company is going to fund something like Kirlian photography where they can diagnose and potentially treat something by taking a picture of it? Picture doesn't cost that camera doesn't cost that much to make, of course. There's no way in hell a pharmaceutical company is going to lend a substantial grant unless it's a grant to one of their own goons who's going to be like Gordon and it's going to be like, fuck, this is just a hoax. You know what I mean? That's why I would love to start my own institute where I can fund people to conduct studies, but have a shit ton of money at their disposal and equipment at their disposal so they can. Anywho, yeah. Yeah, I put the link. It's right here. Here's the link to the CIA document for Daniel who was asking. CIA.gov/library/whatever. I can't read the rest. Oh, Smith already got it for me. Nice. Thanks. Have you talked about how our hair can strengthen/increase the magnetic fields? I've talked about that in previous videos, how hair can strengthen, but that was all speculation. I don't have any, or at least I haven't come across any links that talk about scientific studies or CIA leaks on how a hair can strengthen or weaken our sort of EM field. I know natives talk about it, but that's not necessarily, there's no tests on natives talking about it. They just, and I'm paraphrasing, natives say that the hair is an extension of the nervous system, and as a result, helps us tune into different things. However, at the same time, um, I'm not necessarily sold that you need long hair to have more antennas. The more research I've done, I don't think that if you have no hair, I'm changing my stance on the earlier video that I did on dreadlocks specifically. But I see the monks that are freaking up in the Himalayas, and they think that you must shave off all your hair. Um, that hair hold traps energy. Some people argue that dreadlocks, because they're tangled, don't allow for a flow of energy. Right? That the tangledness of the dreadlock traps energy, and that's a bad thing. Do I believe that also? I don't know. I don't believe it either way. I guess I would have to do more research on that. I mean, we know physically they can do drug tests, and like right now, if I took a dreadlock and sent it in to be drug tested, they'd be like, "Oh, there was cannabis in this dude was consuming cannabis 5 years ago because it's in your hair." Um, and whatever else I did, they can probably tell the caffeine intake. They can probably tell the opioid intake because I had surgery, so I had to take I took Vicodin. I think Vicodin is an opioid, right? So they'll be like, "Oh, he's had Vicodin in his system." Um, Probably pizza toppings. They'd be like, "Oh, homeboys had pizza toppings in the past couple of years," and they can date that. So physically speaking, the hair absolutely stores information. I don't know if trapping information is the right word, because trapping has a negative connotation, meaning things can't be released from it. Can energy be released from dreadlocks? I don't know. I don't know. Um, but it would be nice to put some serious money into scientific tests, right? Because some people be like, "Oh, well, science is too, it's believing before seeing." I understand that part. And like it's too limiting. Like I hear that. But when you have natives who are considered to be exceptionally spiritual, growing their hair out their entire lives, and on the flip side, you have Tibetan monks who swear that you got to cut all that shit off because being bald is the most spiritual practice. You've got two of the most spiritual people on the planet preaching the exact opposites of what it means to be spiritual when it pertains to the hair. So I look at that and I go, well, I certainly don't think I know more than the natives about growing hair, and certainly I don't know more than the Tibetan monks about not growing hair. So I have no fucking answer for that. But we could do some tests. Let's run some tests. Hey, let's put a monk and a native side by side, hook them up to a Kirlian photograph booth, and see wagwan. You know what I mean? Um, that's why I'm bummed that science isn't more open to doing substantial tests on things like these. Breaks my heart, man. What it do, Z Williams? Nice to see you. Good luck with the moving. And as Daniel just stated, I'm sure is the best answer, which is I'm sure there's probably some benefits to both a natural long hair and a shaved head. Of course. I've even thought as much as maybe you have really long hair and you've had a shitty last 3 years. Maybe you did do a lot of heavy drugs. Maybe you're a drug addict even. We'll take it to the extreme. And you've been doing nothing but drugs, booze, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Eating shitty foods, just a complete heinous lifestyle for the past 4 or 5 years. You want to turn it all around. Then in that case, I would say, just off my own personal intuition, 100% shave that shit down to the scalp. Right? You don't want the hair that's been storing up years of very harmful synthetic food and drugs stored up on the top of your brain. You know what I mean? Cut that shit off. Whereas, maybe you've been meditating on a mountaintop half an hour twice a day for the past 5 years, eating nothing but homegrown free range goodies, organic this and that. You've been doing all the things and your hair's on point. Maybe you're chilling. I don't know. Again, we need more data to figure out the answer to that proposition. Oranges? Do you guys want oranges? Can you... This one? Oop, two fell off. I'm getting bit by ants over here. The oranges didn't come out very good this year, but I just moved in, so I'm hoping by 2021 I have these 2 orange trees dialed in. Because of, I don't know, the 50 pounds of oranges on the tree right now, maybe only 5 pounds of it is prime oranges. The other ones are kind of sickly and not looking too good. But yeah, good point. John Smith and I were talking about his storing of things in boxes and how that was sort of a physical manifestation of. That's sort of a no-brainer either. At least if you follow like feng shui and stuff like that. They say people whose houses in feng shui, the oriental practice of orienting your house proper is they go look at your home. Your home is a physical manifestation representation of your mind. Say your living room's super clean, but your bedroom is messy, or your bedroom is messy, or your bedroom is super clean and your living room is messy. Right? How does that correspond to your mind? What do you store in different rooms? How do you store them? How do you feel about different rooms? What's the presentation? What's the organization of the rooms in your house? And that's sort of a reflection of your mind. So good connection there, Sir Smith. Good connection. Gonna get a dumpster and start tossing. You can start selling shit too, Smith. Go on your Facebook and take a fat picture of stuff and be like, yo, I got a bunch of shit for sale. Hit me up. Or you could toss it too. Or you could donate it. There's a bunch of places that let you donate stuff. This is, my brother just told me about it. He said there's for any of you guys that are moving, there's a company that will give you a receipt for everything that you donate to them for the value of the object as what you say the value is. And you can use said receipts as a write-off. So you have an old computer, like they'll give you a receipt for the old computer on all the clothes you have and your toaster, your old microwave, and you can use all that shit as a write-off. Or you can toss it. I tend to be in the just toss shit. When I finally make the decision to get things out of my life, I don't play games. I'm like, it's gone and it's gone now while I have the drive to do it. I don't have time to put up pictures and shit of everything I'm trying to sell. Ooh, thanks, Onyx. It's a dope shirt, huh? Yeah. I need to. The shirt's getting tight on me though. I need to start working out. Freaking dad bod plus COVID is making me pack on a few pounds. Plus the gym's being shut down. I gotta step my game up. Dope. I mean, I shared everything I needed to share. I just wanted to bring you guys a bit of information on Kirlian photography, and maybe I can buy one. Maybe I can just get an engineer to make one, and I can start my own healing practice, and have people show up and take some Kirlian photography images. That would be dope. I made 150 off a king size bed that I got as a second bed from Wayfair. You bought a bed from Wayfair, Jenny Pete? Have you been have you been shopping from Wayfair? Have you not been keeping up with this Wayfair stuff, Jenny Pete? That's funny. My area is not completely shut down, but the saunas are shut down at my gym, and 90% of why I even go to the gym in the first place is for the sauna. And I just got to go to work out now, which is a bummer because it's not that exciting. I've just been fucking lazy. I've been busy as hell, and when I do have free time, it hasn't been for the gym. It's been for what the hell have I been doing in my free time these days? Gardening, playing video games. Gardening and playing video games. It's basically has been Keith time lately. Well, y'all, it's been real. Should we call it? Should we end it there? Any final words to speak now or forever hold your peace? Everyone who's new, thank you guys for tuning in. Um, I hope you guys consider subscribing to the channel. And for those of you who've been here for a while, Jenny, Yesenia, Smith, Onyx, Daniel, I think I've seen you here a number of times. Thank you guys, everyone, for chilling and hanging out and doing the thing. Thank you to my Patreon subscribers. You guys have been holding it down for me. I've been stacking up the Patreon account. I haven't spent any of the money I've made on Patreon since I started the channel like 2 years ago, and I have I think like $700 in there. What up? So I'm super excited. Ghislaine Maxwell didn't kill herself. No, she didn't. And thank you guys for shopping my Etsy shop. I forgot to mention that my Patreon is tied to my Etsy shop. So if you sign up for the Patreon, you can get either 10 or 20%, depending upon which one you join. And I have beeswax candles. I haven't been re-updating my Etsy shop. I haven't had time to make products for the Etsy shop. So a lot of the products right now are down, but candles, herbs, fresh white sage and mugwort bundles, plants. I have frankincense seeds. I have a bunch of seeds on there. I have natural perfumes on there. I have my lucid dreaming spagyric tincture that's on there that's been firing off. I'm almost sold out. It's taken me a year and a half, but I'm almost sold out. Yeah, a bunch of cool stuff on the Etsy shop and discounts through Patreon if you sign up for it on the Etsy shop. So there's that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you guys to the Cash App supporters too. I've got like $100 saved on my Cash App from Cash App donations. So from the donations, I got like $800 right now, just stored up, which is dope. I might buy a new camera, because I can't stream. My camera's too old now to where I can't use my DSLR to stream Zoom live anymore because it's too old. So I have to buy a new camera to stream with my camera if I want to use Zoom. Bummer. So that's that. Yeah. Better get busy. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out. I'll see you in the next video. All right. Take it easy. Oh yeah, we're going live later tonight with Richie ZXY. We're going live tonight, so I do have one for diabetes, Jenny. It's not marketed for diabetes, but I probably should have done that. I have Devil's Club spagyric, and Devil's Club is one of the most powerful blood sugar stabilizers out there on the planet. It's called an adaptogen, which if your sugar's too low, it raises it. If it's too high, none of what I've said has been approved by the FDA, yada, yada, yada. But you can look up scientific tests on Devil's Club. They're all over the place online on how it'll raise blood sugar levels or it'll lower them if they're too high. It also helps balance your stress hormones. If you're stressed out, it's really good for high octane people, athletes, type A business people who are always fucking working, always grinding, because it stabilizes hormones. But because it stabilizes, it's also good for diabetes, which is a blood sugar level issue. So that's on the Etsy as well. It's called the Devil's Club spagyric. I need to do a video where I talk about all the products on the Etsy channel. But yeah. Anything else? Hey, Richie Breathe, what up? Richie's here, actually. Nice to see you, Richie. Yeah, it's on the site right now. Okay, y'all. I'll see you later tonight. All right, take it easy.